Okay, so today we're diving into the world of ServiceNow.
But with a twist,
Okay.
we're tackling Anders Figenschou's book.
How to Master ServiceNow in 10,000 Hard and Painful Steps.
Right. Before you think this is just another tech manual.
It's anything but.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's way deeper than that.
Figenschou uses ServiceNow,
As a lens to explore a philosophy.
a powerful philosophy for mastering any skill.
Okay.
It's about pushing your boundaries
And embracing those hard and painful steps.
to unlock deeper levels of understanding,
10,000 steps does sound a tad intimidating.
of like climbing Mount Everest of code.
Right.
But I'm guessing he's not suggesting we all become coding machines.
Not at all.
It's more of a metaphor, you know.
He argues that by aiming for those,
Seemingly impossible goals,
even if we don't, perfectly achieve them.
we gain invaluable knowledge in the process.
And I love that.
So it's less about memorizing every line of code.
And more about expanding our capacity to learn and grow.
Exactly.
He shares a great anecdote, actually.
About a client who wanted a custom ServiceNow search engine.
With Google-level performance.
Okay.
Talk about a daunting task.
That does sound like a recipe for a few painful steps.
Right.
What happened? Did he actually pull it off?
But that's not the point.
He dove head first into this seemingly impossible challenge.
Forcing himself to learn the fundamentals of search engines.
From the ground up.
Wow.
Things like,
Indexing, which is how search engines organize information.
shy.
Which is like simplifying words to their root form.
For more accurate searches.
And even those tricky compression algorithms.
To make it all run smoothly.
Wow, so he didn't just build a feature.
He basically became a search engine expert along the way.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
What about those of us who don't live in the world of code?
How does this hard way approach apply to us?
That's the beauty of Figenschou's message.
It transcends the technical.
Okay.
He argues these same principles apply to soft skills too.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
How so?
Well, take storytelling, for example.
There's a story in the book about him accidentally,
Me tooing, a colleague,
and how telling the full detailed story,
completely changes its meaning.
now that you mention it.
I do remember that story.
Right.
It's not your typical ServiceNow topic, that's for sure.
Can you refresh our memory on how it all went down? Figenschou described an incident where he thought he was
Being playful with a colleague,
sneaking up and poking him in the back with his glasses.
turns out it wasn't his colleague at all.
Oh.
It was someone he'd never even met.
Oh, no.
Talk about an awkward encounter.
Right.
What did he do?
It would have been easy to brush it off.
But instead, he took full responsibility.
He went straight to HR,
And the colleague he'd mistaken.
acknowledged the awkwardness.
It cleared the air.
It could have been a, career-limiting moment,
Right.
but his approach completely changed the narrative.
So how does this tie back to the idea of storytelling being a powerful tool?
Even in a technical field like IT.
It's all about context.
In a short version, he looks pretty bad, right?
Right.
But by sharing the full story,
Including his vulnerability and the steps he took to make things right
it becomes a story about taking responsibility.
and learning from uncomfortable experiences.
That's a great point.
The short version makes you jump to conclusions
But the longer version provides crucial context.
and shows his character.
Right.
So he's saying that even in ServiceNow,
Understanding the full context of a situation is crucial.
exactly,
Just like a single error message in ServiceNow.
could have a dozen different root causes.
Right.
A single event can be interpreted in many ways.
Depending on the context.
Figenschou wants us to dig deeper
To be aware of our own biases
and to seek out the full story.
before jumping to conclusions.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it's not just about writing elegant code.
Or configuring complex workflows.
It's about understanding the human element.
The nuances.
The context behind every interaction.
Precisely.
And sometimes those hard and painful steps.
Aren't about technical challenges at all.
But about confronting our own assumptions.
And being willing to see things from different perspectives.
So it sounds like this hard way.
Isn't about seeking out pain,
Or making things unnecessarily difficult for ourselves.
but rather about embracing discomfort.
As a catalyst for growth.
Exactly.
It's about pushing past those I can't moments.
Yeah, discovering that we're capable of much more than we think.
He actually compares it to his experience learning Kung Fu
Where his instructor emphasized teaching basic techniques.
as a path to mastery.
Wait, teaching is a path to mastery.
That's unexpected.
Right.
I would have thought mastering the most advanced techniques was the goal.
It seems counterintuitive.
But He found that breaking down those fundamental moves
And explaining them to others
forced him to confront his own understanding.
in a whole new way.
It's like that saying.
The best way to learn something is to teach it.
Right.
You're forced to really know your stuff.
Exact.
You have to know it well enough to explain it to somebody else.
Right.
And sometimes that's when the real aha moments happen.
When you have to break it down.
And articulate it in a way that,
Makes sense to someone else.
yeah.
And often that's how you uncover those hidden gaps in your own knowledge.
Absolutely.
Those areas where you thought you had it all figured out.
But when you really try to explain it,
You realize you need to dig a little deeper
it's like those moments when you think you understand something.
until you try to explain it to someone else.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
Wait a minute.
I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
It's humbling, for sure.
Right.
But it's also incredibly valuable.
It
Because it
is.
forces you to confront those blind spots.
And to seek out a deeper level of understanding.
And that's really what this hard way approach is all about, isn't it?
It is.
It's about embracing those moments of discomfort
Those challenges.
as opportunities for growth
Absolutely.
and recognizing that sometimes,
The most profound learning comes from those unexpected places,
yeah,
like trying to teach someone else something you thought you already knew.
exact.
And that can apply to any field, really.
Not just ServiceNow or technology.
Absolutely.
It's a life lesson as much as it is a professional one.
It's about being a lifelong learner,
Exactly.
embracing those hard steps.
As stepping stones on our journey of growth.
I love that.
Stepping stones on our journey of growth.
Yeah.
So we're seeing how embracing discomfort can lead to unexpected growth.
Whether it's tackling a complex technical challenge.
Or facing an uncomfortable social situation.
Right.
But you mentioned Show takes this hard way approach even further.
With something called a Markoff chain.
He does.
And you're right to bring that up.
It can seem like a total left turn.
But it perfectly illustrates his point.
To be honest,
I'm a little fuzzy on what a Markoff chain actually is.
could you break it down for us?
Absolutely.
Imagine a system that can analyze patterns in data.
And use those patterns to predict what might happen next.
That's the essence of a Markoff chain.
Okay.
It's all about probabilities.
Let's say you're looking at a sequence of words,
A Markoff chain can tell you the likelihood.
of a certain word appearing.
Based on the word that came before it,
Okay.
you're kind of getting it.
But how does this relate to ServiceNow?
Or, real life.
Fig and Show used a Markoff chain,
To build a system that could generate,
semi-coherent text,
he fed it the entire text of Alison Wonderland.
and the system learned the patterns and relationships.
Between the words.
So it's like it learned the grammar of Alison Wonderland.
without actually understanding the story itself.
Exactly.
It was just looking at probabilities.
Get this.
The system could then generate new sentences,
That sounded like they came from the book.
even though they were totally new combinations of words.
So it's like a random Alison Wonderland sentence generator.
That's kind of cool.
But I still don't see the connection to mastering ServiceNow.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Fig and Show didn't stop at just generating nonsensical text
He took it a step further.
and used the same Markoff chain concept.
To predict incident assignments in ServiceNow.
Now we're talking.
So he was trying to use this technology
To potentially automate a task.
that service desk analysts handle every day.
You got it.
He was basically teaching a machine to think,
Like a service desk analyst.
at least in terms of recognizing patterns in incident descriptions.
And predicting which team should handle them.
That's pretty ambitious.
I imagine that came with its own set of hard and painful steps.
Oh, absolutely.
He had to figure out how to represent incident data,
In a way, the Markoff chain could understand.
how to deal with common words,
That appeared in lots of different contexts.
and how to constantly refine the algorithm.
To improve its accuracy
So it wasn't just a matter of feeding the machine data
and letting it work its magic.
Both.
It sounds like there was a lot of human intervention.
and problem solving involved.
Exactly.
You had to become a data detective,
Digging into the incident data
identifying patterns
and figuring out how to translate those patterns.
into something the Markoff chain could use.
It's fascinating to me.
How this one concept
This Markoff chain,
took him on this wild journey
from generating whimsical Alice in Wonderland sentences
to potentially revolutionizing how incident assignments are handled.
in ServiceNow.
Right.
It really highlights how those hard and painful steps
Can lead us down unexpected paths.
and open up new possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's the heart of his message, isn't it?
It's about being willing to explore
To experiment,
and to embrace the unknown
even if it seems completely unrelated.
to our immediate goals.
You never know what connections you might uncover
It's about cultivating that mindset,
of continuous learning and exploration.
even if it means venturing outside our comfort zones.
Right.
But let's bring it back to our listeners for a moment.
This all sounds impressive.
But some people might be thinking,
Okay, but I'm not building AI systems in my day job.
how can I apply this hard way
A
approach?
practical way.
That's a great question.
And Fig & Show addresses this directly.
He argues that these hard and painful steps,
Don't always have to involve complex technical feats.
sometimes the most valuable hard steps,
Involve challenging our own assumptions.
and seeking out different perspectives
Can you give us an example?
of what that might look like.
In the context of ServiceNow, or IT in general,
Absolutely.
let's say you're struggling to find a solution.
To a particularly tricky problem in ServiceNow.
Instead of going down the same familiar paths,
What if you sought out someone
with a completely different skill set or background,
and asked for their perspective?
it's about breaking out of those silos.
We often find ourselves
Exactly.
talk to a developer
a business analyst.
or even someone in a completely different department
You might be surprised by the fresh insights.
and creative solutions that emerge.
When you step outside your usual circle of expertise
It's about embracing that diversity of thought
and challenging our own assumptions.
about how things should be done.
And that can be a hard step in itself.
It requires humility
A willingness to admit we don't have all the answers.
and an openness to learning from others.
But the potential rewards are huge.
It's about recognizing that those hard and painful steps
Are often where the most valuable learning and growth.
take place.
Right.
But let's be real,
It's not always easy to find the time or motivation.
to push ourselves in this way.
You're right.
We all have deadlines.
Competing priorities.
And sometimes we just want to take the easiest path,
So how do we stay motivated?
to keep taking those hard steps.
Even when it's tough.
Fig & Show suggests a few things.
First, create a supportive learning environment for yourself.
Surround yourself with people who challenge and inspire you
People who are willing to share their knowledge.
and push you to grow.
So find your tribe.
Your network of fellow learners. He also emphasizes the importance.
Of setting realistic expectations.
Mastery isn't a destination.
It's an ongoing journey.
It's about acknowledging that it's okay to stumble along the way.
To make mistakes and learn from them.
He even shares some of his own struggles and setbacks.
Reminding us that even the experts.
Have those moments of doubt and frustration,
It's about being kind to ourselves.
celebrating our progress
And remembering why we embarked on this journey.
in the first place.
He also encourages us to look.
For those hard steps in unexpected places.
It's not just about formal training or certifications.
It's about seeking out opportunities to challenge ourselves.
In our everyday work.
So how can our listeners start incorporating some of these hard steps?
Into their own ServiceNow journeys.
Starting today.
That's a great question.
And he offers some very specific advice.
Okay.
I'm ready for some actionable takeaways.
Lay it on us.
First, he encourages us to dive deeper.
Into those underlying technologies that power ServiceNow.
Even if we don't consider ourselves coders.
Okay, so we're talking about getting back to basics.
Understanding those foundational elements.
That might seem a little intimidating at first.
What are some concrete steps our listeners can take in that direction?
Fig & Show suggests taking a closer look at JavaScript.
Which is a programming language.
That's heavily used in ServiceNow.
Okay.
You don't have to become a coding whiz.
But even a basic understanding.
Can be incredibly helpful.
It's like learning the language that ServiceNow is built on.
It can help you troubleshoot problems more effectively.
And even customize the platform to better suit your needs. And he also talks about the importance.
Of understanding database structures.
ServiceNow is built on a database.
And knowing how that database is organized.
Can help you make sense of how data flows through the system.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's like having a roadmap.
To navigate the data that makes ServiceNow tick,
Precisely.
it can help you make more informed decisions.
About how to design and implement solutions.
And he doesn't stop there.
He also encourages us to explore concepts.
Like APIs and web services.
Now, those sound a little more advanced.
Can you break those down for us?
In a more approachable way.
Sure.
Think of APIs as messengers.
That allow different systems to talk to each other.
Okay.
ServiceNow has a powerful API.
That lets you integrate it with other tools.
And automate tasks.
And web services are basically a way.
For applications to communicate over the internet.
So it's about understanding how ServiceNow can connect.
and interact with the wider world of technology.
Even if we're not building those integrations ourselves,
Exactly.
the more we understand these underlying technology,
Even at a high level,
the more effectively we can troubleshoot problems
design solutions.
and ultimately push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's about becoming more than just users.
It's about becoming ServiceNow power users.
Right.
Yeah,
And here's another hard step.
that Fig and Show highly recommends.
Get involved in the ServiceNow community.
Ah, the power of community.
They touched on that.
But let's dig a little deeper.
Right.
What are some specific ways our listeners?
Can tap into that collective wisdom and support.
Well, for starters,
Check out the ServiceNow Developer Program,
it's a treasure trove of resources
forums,
and even hackathons,
where you can put your skills to the test.
and learn from the best.
And let's not forget the ServiceNow community,
That bustling online hub.
where users from all over the world connect,
Yeah.
ask questions,
Share solutions.
and learn from each other's experiences.
It's an invaluable resource.
For anyone working with ServiceNow,
You can find answers to almost any question
get help with tricky configurations.
and connect with people who understand the challenges you're facing.
It's like having a direct line,
To a global network of ServiceNow experts
all willing to share their knowledge.
and lend a helping hand.
And if you have the opportunity,
Try to attend a ServiceNow event like Knowledge or CreatorCon
these events are incredible opportunities.
to network with fellow enthusiasts
Learn from industry leaders.
and get inspired by the latest and greatest ServiceNow has to offer.
I've heard those events are like a shot of adrenaline.
For anyone passionate about ServiceNow,
Right.
they're packed with learning sessions
Hands-on workshops.
and chances to connect with people who share your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And here's one final hard step,
That Fig and Show emphasizes.
and it might surprise you.
Embrace the power of teaching.
There's that teaching theme again
It seems like it's woven into the very fabric.
of his hard way philosophy.
It is.
He firmly believes that teaching others
Even in informal settings.
is one of the most powerful ways to solidify our own understanding.
And uncover those hidden gaps in our knowledge.
It's like that saying.
To teach us to learn twice.
Right.
When we have to explain a concept to someone else.
In a way that they can understand
It forces us to confront our own assumptions.
and really internalize the information.
Exactly.
He encourages us to look for those opportunities,
To mentor colleagues.
share our knowledge in online forums,
Or even just take a few minutes.
to explain a concept to a friend or family member,
It's about paying it forward
spreading that ServiceNow knowledge.
and empowering others to take their own hard steps toward mastery.
Right.
But as we wrap up this deep dive,
I'm curious.
what was your biggest takeaway from exploring this book?
If I can show the unique perspective,
You know,
what really resonated with me?
was his emphasis on finding your own personal style?
Okay.
He argues that true mastery,
Isn't just about technical proficiency,
it's about developing your own unique approach.
your own way of thinking and problem solving.
It's about embracing those aha moments.
Those times when we discovered a new way of doing things.
That just clicks for us.
Right.
Even if it's not the textbook way.
Exactly.
It's about being willing to experiment
To try different approaches.
and to not be afraid to break the mold a little bit.
It's about bringing our whole selves to the table
Our unique perspectives and experiences.
and using them to shape our own paths to ServiceNow mastery.
He reminds us that this journey,
Isn't just about becoming technical experts,
it's about becoming more well-rounded
resilient,
and ultimately more fulfilled individuals.
and that's a journey worth taking.
One hard step at a time.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners,
If you had to pick one impossible goal to master,
in your world,
what would it be? What's the first hard step, no matter how small, that you can take towards it today?
until next time.
Keep diving deep.